Heidi Planck attended her son's football game in Downey, California on October 17, 2021. She left early. That evening around 6:30 p.m., a surveillance camera observed Heidi walking her beloved dog Seven near the corner of Hope and Flower in downtown Los Angeles. Seven was found roaming around a nearby high-end apartment building around 30 minutes later. Several friends and family members contacted Heidi over the following few days, but none got a response. On October 20th, Heidi failed to pick up her son from school and her ex-husband filed a missing persons report. Hope and Flower footage shows Heidi entering but not exiting the building. She is believed to have attended a party there, according to the police. Her home was searched and her cell phone and laptop were found there. The LAPD initiated a weeks-long search at the Chiquita Canyon landfill based on the forensic evidence obtained at Hope and Flower. The working theory is that something happened to Heidi at the party and she was placed in a trash chute that emptied into a dumpster. Another theory is that her job at Camden Capital Partners had something to do with her disappearance. Heidi Planck is still missing. 21-year-old Denise Lee was at home with her 2 children on January 17, 2008 in Northport, Florida. She called her husband Nathan and told him she was going to open the windows since the weather was gorgeous outside. This would be his final conversation with Denise. When Nathan arrived home at 3:30 p.m., the windows were locked, his wife was gone, and his 2 children were alone in their crib. Nathan contacted 911 to report Denise's disappearance. Denise contacted 911 later that same day, claiming she'd been kidnapped. At 6:30 p.m., a third call was made to 911 by a motorist who heard screams coming from the car next to hers at a stoplight. Despite the calls, Denise's body was discovered in a shallow grave 2 days later. She'd been sexually assaulted and murdered. During the course of their investigation, detectives met with a neighbor who saw a 1994 green Chevy Camaro approach the Lee's house about 2 p.m. A plumber named Michael King was the owner of the Camaro. Denise's hair and some of her personal belongings were discovered at King's house and in his car by investigators. In 2009, Michael King was convicted of Denise's murder and sentenced to death. On November 22, 2018, 29-year-old Kelsey Berreth went shopping with her toddler for last-minute Thanksgiving supplies at a Safeway in Woodland Park, Colorado around noon. This would be the last time she was seen in public. Over an hour later, a neighbor's surveillance camera saw her and her 30-year-old fiancé, Patrick Frazee, entering her apartment. Patrick left the residence with their child 3 hours later. Kelsey was reported missing 10 days later by her mother. Patrick's mistress, Crystal Lee Kenny, came forward about her role in Kelsey's disappearance and admitted to tampering with evidence. As part of a plea bargain, she told police that Kelsey had been beaten to death with a baseball bat by Patrick, and her last words to him were, "Please stop." Crystal also stated that Patrick then called her to go to the house and clean up the mess, asking specifically to look for the knocked-out teeth. Prosecutors believe Kelsey's corpse was burned on a friend's property after being packed in a black container in the back of Patrick's truck. Crystal was sentenced to the maximum penalty for evidence tampering, which is 18 months. Patrick received a life sentence plus 156 years in prison for the crime. On September 25, 2007, 55-year-old Hadas Winnick and her 25-year-old son Jesse had spent the entire evening arguing in their shared Calabasas, California home. Jesse began to make himself a sandwich, and when Hadas asked him to clean up after himself, he snapped. He grabbed a knife and repeatedly stabbed her in the torso before one final blow to the neck. Jesse then called his 22-year-old sister Amy Chesler and said, quote, "Don't come home, I killed Mom," end quote. By the time Amy arrived home, Jesse had taken off with his mother's car. She discovered her mother's lifeless body in the kitchen and called the police. Amy told investigators that Jesse had been aggressive and manipulative for years, and the cops had to be called multiple times prior to Hadas' murder. Jesse was arrested and stood trial 4 years later after multiple delays. He was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. In a parole hearing in 2021, he threatened the lives of Amy and her family and attempted to murder a corrections officer. In 2023, Jesse is due to be sentenced for those threats and the attempted murder. 71-year-old Margaret Barnes was murdered on the evening of July 11, 2022, when she made herself at home in what she thought was the Wavecrest bed and breakfast. It was not. She'd been drinking with friends in Barmouth, North Wales, when she decided it was time to head to the bed and breakfast she'd reserved for the night. Margaret purchased some gin after calling it a night and was seen on CCTV carrying her luggage. She entered Belmont House, which was a townhouse a few doors down from Wavecrest. Margaret walked upstairs, got undressed, took out her dentures, poured herself a glass of gin and tonic, and went to bed. When the homeowner, 46-year-old David Redfern, got home, he saw Margaret asleep in his bed. He then dragged her out of bed and down the stairs by her ankles. David then stomped on Margaret's body as he screamed profanities at her. She suffered rib fractures, a shattered neck, and a burst liver, comparable to those found in a high-speed traffic crash. David Redfern was sentenced to a minimum of 14 years to life on March 31, 2023. On April 28, 2023, 25-year-old Jamie Lee Komorowski was driving 65 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone when she crashed her Toyota Camry into a golf cart filled with 4 people. She was 3 times the legal blood alcohol level. The cart was knocked over 100 yards after flipping multiple times. Amongst the 4 passengers in the golf cart was newlywed couple 34-year-old Samantha Hutchinson and 36-year-old Eric Hutchinson. Samantha was killed in the crash and died at the scene. The other 3 passengers, including Eric, were taken to the hospital and sustained a variety of injuries, including broken legs, a concussion, and multiple facial fractures. Jamie was taken into custody. 2 days later, during a call with her parents, she said, quote, "Oh my God, I just can't believe this happened to me. Why me? I'm going to be here for years and years and years and years. I can't believe this is my life. My whole life is going to be over." End quote. Her father told her to suck it up and get tough. Jamie is facing 3 charges of felony DUI resulting in great bodily injury or death and 1 count of reckless homicide. 33-year-old Sarah Everard was abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered by off-duty London Police Constable Wayne Cousins on March 3, 2021. Sarah had left a friend's home at 9 p.m. in South London and had a 2-mile walk home alone to Brixton Hill. Not long after her walk began, a camera caught Wayne arresting Sarah and placing her in his rental white Vauxhall Astra. At 11:43 p.m., Wayne had transferred Sarah to his personal seat car. Between 12 and 1 a.m., phone data would place Wayne in Dover, where he reportedly murdered her. At 2:34 a.m., Cousins purchased drinks from a Dover gas station, then changed back into his rental car so he could return it. Sarah's boyfriend reported her missing the next day. Wayne attempted to cover up his crime in the days that followed by burning Sarah's body and possessions, then transporting her remains to a nearby pond on the Rope Walk in Sandwich. On March 10, 2021, Sarah's body was found by divers, and Wayne was arrested and charged with murder. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without parole.